Yep.
All right, so to review the new mapping system, the MECC Map, like we said, on your home screen here, it's the icon with the double M. That'll get it booted up. Obviously, the idea being it just continues to run down here along the bottom, so you can switch between your MDT screen and then the search screen is the default screen that comes up. From the home screen here, basically any address that is in the county GIS files is what this is based off of. We've already found, because the county files are somewhat limited, especially along the Salem Avenue corridor, there's quite a few addresses that won't validate. However, when they don't validate, it'll still show you the approximate area that the address will be in, okay, as far as the block range. When you go to look up an address, you actually don't need to type the entire address. One of the easiest ways to do it is just to type in the number, and then we can type in the first couple of letters of the street. It'll search anything in Montgomery County, and then of course we can choose the appropriate one that we want to open up. So we'll open up 1001 Shiloh Springs. So when Hare Arena comes up, the first view that you see is 40,000 feet. And the idea being that essentially from here, it tries to show you what we know, and that's fire stations, so that you kind of get an orientation to where you're headed initially, if it were an address that you weren't familiar with. Along the top here, just some of the usable features for us. So as we want to find this address and we want to start zooming in, we're going to use the preset zoom levels are pretty easy for us. So right now we're in overview, as you see up there on the top. The next level is street. So you can touch it, you can click it, or you can hit F7, and that takes you to street. That drops you down to 10,000 feet to the address. It automatically centers on whatever address that you're looking up. The next one over is parcel, and that'll take you down to 3,000 feet. And at this level, a couple things change. First is that it gives you the overhead view of what the building will look like based on GIS files. You'll also notice that it has hydrant locations. Now, the one caveat with the hydrant locations is, again, we're bound by whatever is in the county GIS file. We're in the process for the rest of this year. We're going to be updating all of those maps for the city, sending them back to the county, and then they're going to release a new update of their GIS files based on everything that we send them. So by hopefully the first of the year, this file will be very accurate on all the hydrant locations in the city. From here, so you'll see hydrant location, you see the overhead view. There's actually one more level of zoom, but the other thing I want to show you at this level is, if you notice over here on the right-hand side of the screen, it generated a box called Ortho. Ortho is satellite view. So if we click on Ortho, you'll see that it'll sync over to essentially a Google Earth view of the item that you're looking up there. If need be, if it were just a residential house, for Hare Arena, this is a pretty good overview at the 3,000 feet mark. But there is one more preset level of zoom, and that is super, or you could hit F9, and it goes into 750 feet. And again, it's just that satellite view. If that's not a very helpful view to you, you can switch back to your overhead view by clicking Ortho again. A couple other things that you'll see with this screen in particular, being that it's Hare Arena, is that it has over here in the left-hand corner this yellow box that came up, and that's called target maps. Target maps are what sync to the PDF files of our pre-plans and our complex directory. So if we hit target map, you'll see that it'll pull up and it'll open up a PDF form, and this is going to be the exact same page that you're used to in the complex directory as far as the overview for this address. The goal of this is, as we continue to grow with our complexes and our pre-plans, is that all of that information is going to be entered into this. So as we develop those pre-plans, and that project is coming up as well, as soon as those get submitted and we start getting that information filled out, it'll be uploaded to this, it'll be updated on all the computers, and we'll have that as usable information. Some other things that we'll be able to do with this is we can do overhead views. We can add in locations as to where FDC locations, Knox boxes, all of that stuff. And you would actually see that on the map itself. And I'll show you an example of that here in a second. So again, to kind of review on if like a residential house, we'll pull up the fire that we had today. So 4720 North Union, so we'll pull that one up. If you're on this screen, if you notice over here on the left, a few boxes that you have. So you have search, that takes you back to that screen that we just had initially with the keyboard. The other box you have is results. If you go to results, that'll take you back to the screen that you just searched under. So the 1001 that we searched for, it'll take you back to that because maybe you hit the wrong button. The other button, last 5, that one will take you back to whatever the last 5 addresses that we searched for. So that brings that one up. Like I said, here's results. It'll take you back to whatever it was that you initially searched for. Refresh simply refreshes the screen. And then undo extent or redo extent, it's zooming in, zooming out. The easier way to zoom in and zoom out is the actual labeled one, zoom in and zoom out along the top here. Identify does not work. There's no correlation to that. Same with hyperlink. For our program, we don't use that for anything. In tool, this magnifying glass, it'll essentially zoom in wherever you click. It centers the screen to wherever that tool happens to click. The pan, the little hand up here, when that's clicked, that is how you can grab and adjust the map if need be to look different directions there. Zoom in, zoom out, just like I said, does kind of what you would expect. And GPS at this time, the only thing under here, this is some of the editors that we won't be using. That would be something I'll be using on entering pre-plans and that type of stuff. Options is actually where you shut the program down if for some reason you would need to restart it. And that's obviously the exit down there in the bottom. The EGR or ERG does not work currently. It was synced to the old version. They have not updated it yet. But like I said, so we'll go back to our fire today, the 4720. And again, we have a few ways of looking up addresses. We can type in just 4720. That's going to give you every address in the county that has 4720. So here we have 41 matches, so that's obviously not the best way to search for this address. We can look up, we could type out Union, we could simply type 4720 in the first letter, and it's going to give us the first thing. Now, if it is the only result that it finds, so there's no other U street that has a 4720 in Montgomery County, it'll take you directly to what it finds. If it finds more than one result, it gives you, just like we typed in, you know, the 1001 SH. It gave us every 1001 SH in Montgomery County. So this is, you know, again, kind of if we were responding to that fire again today, this would be our initial view. Again, it tries to give you a big enough view that we can see 74s down there, we can see 73s over there. So again, if you were completely unfamiliar, it at least gives you an idea of where you're kind of headed initially. We go into street level. Now you'll notice Union Road, we obviously have plenty of hydrants. This, the GIS file for Union Road has no hydrants on this. So county has none of those listed in their database. So again, that's just, you know, it'll take some legwork on our behalf, but it'll be worth it because it'll give us usable data. We go back into parcel. Now we're starting to be able to see the actual building or the layout there. We go into super. Now we can actually see kind of how the house looks. And again, if we hit ortho, now we get the satellite image of that house. So a lot of usable data for us, even just in the initial response to a particular address.
You said you can zoom in on the ortho.
You can zoom, yeah, you can zoom in further from here if need be.
So like you can even see where some of your hydrants are.
Yeah, there's times they'll pop up. It just depends a lot of times on how they contrast, because I think that was one of the hydrants we used today. But again, I don't know that it'll give you, you know, verifiable that that's definitely a hydrant type thing, versus when we're able to mark them and use them that way. One of the nice things too with this, and we ran into this one evening, I believe the address was, we went to 4120 Haney. And it was a difficult address to locate because the house itself, it must not have been 4120. And I guess this would be a good talking point too. We can even narrow down if we need to, simply just looking up the street. So when you just start to type the street, it's going to give you, do you want all the addresses that are in anything named H-A-N-E? Do you just want to see streets that are spelled that way? So usually streets are what you're going to want to see. So Haney, of course, it breaks it down into the two different municipalities. So we'll go to the Trotwood municipality. Now, if you notice, we don't have an address in this one, so it's just giving us, it's highlighting the block of Haney that we wanted. And then as we zoom in here, again, we start to see how it zooms. And we'll go off of ortho for this one, just for the discussion point. The address that I think we were initially dispatched to that one night, it was 4112. So it was back off the road, difficult to find. Whereas here, or 4012, excuse me. Here, if that would have been the call today, we would have been able to realize going en route that, hey, this has a little bit of a setback. It may be difficult to find. And it kind of shows the value of the ortho going into that satellite view, because when we looked this up the other night, kind of a weird situation with this one, but actually we could have accessed this from the back off of Salem through that parking lot as well, if it was something we needed to put a ladder there or something like that. So that gives us some nice tools and nice features as well. One of the other things that it'll give us, particularly if we're doing some pre-plans or if it were something that we needed to set up a defensive operation, maybe we're using tanker shuttles or just long lays, is we do have the ability to measure out distances with this.